When I close my eyes, I can still see that day, the dusty sunlight filtering through the acacia trees and the village buzzing with excitement for Awa's wedding. Awa, my younger sister, was the kind of person who brought joy into every room she entered. Her laughter rang out like a chora's melody, and she had this way of making you believe that everything was right in the world. It was my job, my honor, to weave the ceremonial blanket for her wedding. You see, in our village of Fombori, a wedding blanket is more than just cloth. It carries the prayers, hopes, and blessings of the family. The threads, they say, must be woven with the same care as the life it's meant to celebrate. I remember my grandmother, Nene Fatu, giving me the task. Her hands, wrinkled like dry riverbeds, rested on my shoulders. Fanta, she said, her voice steady and full of weight, this is not just a blanket. It is your sister's future. Weave it with your heart. At first, I was excited. I sat at the loom under the baobab tree, with skeins of indigo and gold thread stretched out before me. The rhythmic clack of the loom filled the air as I worked, imagining Awa's smile when she saw it. But as the days wore on, my excitement turned to impatience. The weaving was slow, tediously so. The pattern was intricate, a dance of diamonds and waves that mirrored the Niger River. But my fingers ached, and the village chores piled up. The goats needed herding. The millet needed pounding. I thought to myself, what does it matter if I skip a few rows? Who would notice? So I started cutting corners. I tied loose knots where the threads should have been tightly bound. I skipped a few rows in the pattern, convincing myself that no one would see the difference. By the time the blanket was finished, it looked beautiful to the eye, but only I knew how fragile it was underneath. The day of the wedding arrived, and the village gathered in the clearing. The griot played his drum, and women clapped their hands in rhythm as Awa, radiant in her henna'd feet and beaded headscarf, walked to the ceremonial mat. I handed her the blanket with trembling hands. She wrapped it around her shoulders, smiling at me with so much trust that my chest tightened. Then it happened. As Awa danced with her new husband, spinning and twirling to the rhythm of the djembe, a loud snap cut through the music. The blanket unraveled in her hands, threads spilling onto the ground like a cascade of broken promises. The crowd gasped. Awa's eyes, wide with shock, met mine. Shame burned through me. I wanted to disappear into the earth. That night, I couldn't sleep. I crept to Nene Fatu's hut, where she sat by the fire, her hands busy shelling groundnuts. She didn't look surprised to see me. Sit, she said, patting the ground beside her. Tears streamed down my face as I confessed everything. I was impatient, Nene. I thought no one would notice. I didn't mean to ruin Awa's day. She listened silently, her face etched with understanding but no trace of judgment. After a long pause, she spoke. Fanta, a thread that is weak, cannot hold the weight of life. When you weave, you must think of each thread as a promise to yourself, to your family, to the spirits that watch over us. Would you break a promise? No, Nene, I whispered. She handed me a basket of fresh thread, dyed in deep, rich colors. Then start again. This time, weave with care. I will teach you. For the next 3 days, Nene sat beside me at the loom. She showed me how to tie strong knots, how to follow the rhythm of the pattern, and how to let my heart guide my hands. It was slow work, but something in me shifted. With each thread I wove, I thought of Awa's laughter, of the life she was building with her husband, of the love that tied us all together. When I finally finished, the blanket was a thing of beauty, not just to the eye, but to the touch. It felt strong, solid, alive. On the fourth day, I brought it to Awa. She took it in her hands, her eyes brimming with tears. Thank you, Fanta, she said, wrapping it around her shoulders again. This time, it held firm, hugging her like an embrace. Since that day, I've never rushed my weaving, or anything else in life. Nine was right. Threads, like life, must be woven with care. The blanket now hangs in Awa's home, a reminder of the lesson I carry with me every day. And when the young girls in the village ask me why I take so long at the loom, I smile and tell them, because every thread is a promise.